Multilingual Redditors. What is your "they didn't realize I spoke their language" story? I'm American, but can read and speak Russian at an intermediate level. A few years ago, while visiting St. Petersburg, I was buying tickets for the hydrofoil to Peterhof. All the signs at the ticket booth were in Russian, and I could read the ticket prices. The ticket agent assumed I didn't know Russian, and tried to tell me the ticket cost 3 times more than the stated price. I looked her right in the eye and said in Russian, "I see on the board here that the ticket I want is X rubles." Her jaw dropped, and the ticket agent sitting next to her started laughing her ass off. Said something like, "You need to be careful when talking shit about someone in your native language. There might always be someone who understands you." In German, while I was in Italy, a woman who was walking by responded, "Like me, for example." That's quite funny of her. Flemish guy here, working as a safari guide in the Kruger area, South Africa. One time, my boss asked me to go pick a family of 4 up at the Klasserie Reserve Gate, do an afternoon game drive with them, and drop them off again afterward. This was very uncommon. Normally, we only do game drives with people who book a room in our own lodge on the reserve. So I pick them up, introduce myself, and go over the rules, all in English. They reply in English, or at least the dad does. And normally I can pick up straight away if it's someone from France, Belgium, Holland, or Germany. But his English was Oxford English, so I thought, English people. Off we went. 10 minutes into the game drive, I hear them speak in Flemish, and not only that, in my own dialect. Side note, every Flemish town has a dialect. We can hear what region, province other Flemish people are from, and if they are from the same region, we can often even pinpoint the exact little town or community they are from. Ooh, I was going to have fun with these folks. Found a few nice animal sightings and spoke English all the time, but then one sentence to the next, switched to their exact dialect. I thought, now they're going to be surprised? But nope, we all kept chatting in Flemish now. Only 20 minutes later, the daughter, maybe 10 years old, goes, "Wait a minute, he speaks Flemish." After all, I had a good laugh, and I asked them where they were from. They literally lived 1 street away from me. It's a small world, folks. I lived in South Korea for 3 years, but I never learned too much of the language. A friend of mine is 100% Korean, but is very tall, and was educated in America and New Zealand, so she has an American accent. Her co-teachers at her school all assumed she couldn't speak Korean, so they would talk shit about her constantly, while she would listen on and feel terrible. She said nothing for a whole year, until she had to speak at the end-of-year ceremony. The school offered her someone to translate, but she refused, and in front of 800 or so students and faculty members, she delivered her address in perfect Korean. She subtly called out the co-workers who had spent an entire year calling her a foreign pig. Apparently, one started crying from the shame of it. I wish I had got to see that. My cousin is a big white guy who studied for 2 years in Japan during college. He worked for one of the heads of Honda America for a few years. When the head guy learned that he spoke Japanese, he would make sure my cousin was in all the meetings and phone conferences with the Japanese branch. My cousin would listen to everything the Japanese would be saying to each other and report it to his boss during breaks. As such, the boss looked like a psychic to the Japanese, because after the break he would address their concerns without being prompted. The boss made mad bonuses every quarter and always funneled a bunch of that to my cousin. Edit. I have never seen click so not from that. This is based on my memory of him telling me this about 15 years ago, so don't know how precisely accurate it is. Most of these stories are a bit negative. Here's a lighter one. My mom's a linguist and speaks about 15 languages fluently, and as such, I picked up a couple along the way. Most of my childhood was spent in Germany, so I have a firm grasp of the language, which doesn't really seem to match my appearance. I'm a 6'3", 220 dlds black man who speaks German. Now, this isn't too uncommon a sight in Germany, but in North America, I'm a fucking unicorn. So I was standing at the bus stop one day in the heart of downtown Toronto, and there were these 2 60-something-year-old German ladies who were not having a good time. They were trying to find the art gallery and were fed up with the fact that they were having such a shitty time navigating, because their English-speaking children had left them alone for the day. I didn't have anything particularly important planned for that day, so I turned to them and said something to the effect of, "You know, our city has a lot to offer if you know where to look. Would you two like me to show you where the gallery is and a couple of places you can get lunch along the way?" They nearly fainted. They were so happy that they found someone who spoke German and couldn't stop taking pictures with me to show their family, the guy that saved their day. I walked them to the gallery and gave them a bit of an impromptu walking bus tour along the way. That was the day I gained 2 omas. I was shopping with friends for clothes, and these two ladies who worked at the store were outside of my fitting room speaking in Spanish. They kept criticizing me for taking so long to try on clothes and referred to me as dumb gringo, and jokingly asked me if I needed any assistance, in English. They didn't realize I was Hispanic until I came out of the room and responded in Spanish that no, I didn't need their help. They got so red. Edit. Somehow it's not clear to people that I responded, no, I don't need your help, rather than just no. Oh, I love this one. So I was working at a dental clinic in Germany, and these two guys walked in and started speaking in Arabic, not knowing that both I and my supervisor could understand it. The first guy, actual patient, is nervously telling his friend that this would never work, and his friend is telling him to shut up and play along. So the supervisor and I try to figure out what kind of game they're trying to play. Apparently, they were trying to lie about the patient's age to get his dental treatment done for free. I don't know how that worked. I was just an intern. Unlucky for him, his teeth told the truth. You can't fake being 16 when your wisdom teeth are all the way out. So I and my supervisor shut up about it, and I was in actual pain trying to hold back from laughing, as the friend was convincing the patient that we were idiots who didn't speak Arabic and couldn't understand their tricks. Of course, until I can't anymore and decide to discuss the case with my supervisor, right there in front of them, in Arabic. I have never seen someone turn so many different colors so fast. Edit. Apparently all of you people are weird and got wisdom teeth at weird ages. Asked my professors and they said that around 12 is the lowest they've seen. And even that is because of precocious puberty, from what they've seen. This is super interesting though, so if you have any x-rays, PM me what age you were when you took them, and you can be my special case project of the year. When I started working at McDonald's at 16, none of the other employees realized I could speak a fair amount of Spanish. A few of my co-workers would talk crap about me in Spanish, and I pretended for a few weeks that I didn't know what they were saying. Then one day, a manager told me she was worth me than me because she was bilingual. So I told her, in Spanish, that I was actually trilingual. The looks on their faces, when they realized I spoke Spanish all along, were priceless. My family and I went to Sri Lanka for 2 weeks to see where my mom grew up, and general beach stuff. For some reason, we were the only people in the hotel we were staying at, aside from a wedding party that left a day after we got there. A few days in, there was another family staying there, I believe from Suriname, and we were all chilling at the pool and decided to play a game of water polo against each other. Things got exciting and one of the daughters yelled out something in Dutch like, "Go for the big fat guy!" My Dutch dad replied, "What big fat guy?" And everybody laughed. Just a simple story, but it was pretty sweet. Me and my friend were sharing a cab with two girls we didn't know. Just decided to share a taxi with them, because it was a long way and we wanted to save some money. They started speaking Swedish, not knowing my friend is also Finnish Swede. Her mother language is Swedish. She has been in Swedish school, but is Finn and speaks Finnish fluently. I understand Swedish, but I was too drunk to care. Suddenly she texts me, "They are planning to leave us with the bill." I texted that we should tell the driver, so my friend just said, "These girls will pay half of this before they leave." He got the hint and didn't open the doors before they paid. Also, another time I was in an airport with my aunt. She had broken her leg, so she was in a wheelchair. But because we were going on a beach holiday, we decided not to cancel it. Now my aunt has lived in Germany and speaks it fluently. I've lived there too, so I understand it well, but I'm not fluent. We speak Finnish, something just to pass the time when the flight attendant asks us to go on the plane first. This middle-aged man turns to her wife and says in German, "I don't think disabled people should be allowed on planes." My aunt, who is a true badass, asked me to stop. I was pushing her wheelchair, turned to the man, and said in perfect German, "I'm sorry, sir, but I broke my leg and didn't want to cancel my holiday plans. You are being incredibly offensive towards handicapped people and I feel sorry for your wife. Have a nice flight." He turned red, couldn't even say anything to us, and just looked away. His wife looked mortified. I have more stories if someone is interested. Tell me more. Okay, here it goes. So the same badass aunt and I were shopping in Berlin. We were visiting her oldest son, my cousin. I want to point out that she's always really polite and nice. Unless you are rude to her, then she stands her ground. We are looking through some clothes and again speaking Finnish. We hear a really frustrated middle-aged woman say to her friend, "I can't believe how rude they are. I want to look at those clothes too. They've been at it forever. I don't have time for this." We were at H&M. She could have looked at something else and come back after a few minutes. We weren't blocking her, just looking for my size, and sometimes it takes a minute. My aunt turns to her and says politely, "Oh, go ahead then. Doesn't look like you have the same size anyway. We can wait." She took one of the shirts and just left, really embarrassed. Also, when I was a substitute teacher, had two boys who came from Russia, and they had a way of using Russians as their own secret language. They clearly talked about this one fourth grader. I didn't understand a word, but they kept looking at her and then talking to each other. They were in third grade. So this girl listened for a while and I didn't get involved because I knew she had guts. I kind of hoped she would put an end to it, because we suspected the boys said really bad things about teachers and other students. We had talked about it, but they denied it, and we don't speak Russian, so we just had to believe them and explain our school language is Finnish. The girl later told me she said to those boys, "I'm Russian, and you are being really rude. You should not talk like that about other people." I just remember how the boys stopped and ran away. I praised her when she told me, because she handled it really well. These situations are so common that I'm just wondering how often I miss them because I can't know every language there is. Especially when my cousin, aunt's child, is partying in Germany. We speak Finnish, of course, and a lot of guys comment on our appearance. Usually, we just let it slide, but when confronted, those guys just apologize and tell us they didn't mean anything bad, which I believe. We just do it because it's kind of fun.